There's a piece around the unraveling of that question in your mind. Who am I when I'm not being everything to everyone else?
What I've discovered is that I've actually learned to meet my true self when I'm not, all the titles, the fixer, the strong one, the caretaker, the one that holds it all together.
Until you know better, you can't do better. So if you're listening to this going, just give yourself that compassion too, because often we don't allow ourselves that space to feel all the range of emotions, which is why we're here.
What is the right time to fall apart? It's going to be never. It does happen for you, but I think that when you're in it, you would never believe it. And the more that you resist, you're just going to make the pain last longer.
When you align yourself with what you have, that desire that is in your heart, and I truly believe this 1000%, that spirit has put a desire in your heart. It is a desire that is divine, and it is done. It is yours for the taking.
Hello, beautiful souls. It is Sophia from SacredU. Thank you so much for being here. But before we dive into today's Wisdom Circle, I have a small request from my heart. If our conversations ever resonate with you or support you on your journey, please subscribe to our channel or like this video. It helps us grow SacredU, welcome more powerful voices into this space, and keep you connected to everything we share. Thank you so much for walking this path with us, and let us begin with today's conversation. Welcome to our wonderful Wisdom Circle today. I'm really excited because this is a topic that is so dear to my heart. Returning to yourself. Love it. Reclaiming yourself and your inner wisdom. Our beautiful Anne Irwin is back for another conversation with these amazing women. Jo, I'm going to hand it over to you to have this conversation, and I will see you very soon. Thank you ever so much.
Thank you, Sophia, and welcome, beautiful ladies. How are we all today after this long weekend we've had around the world? And we're just coming back to ourselves. I can imagine. I know, Abby, you've got 4 little ones. I've got my 2 granddaughters here. It's just been an absolute family-filled weekend. So I am the host of this Wisdom Circle that we come monthly together, returning to self, reclaiming that your inner wisdom, coming home, basically, Jo Irwin. And I work with women to find themselves, basically, with all the things that I've traveled through in my personal life and all the curiosity and the modalities that I actually encourage myself to explore. And now I work with women to help them unravel themselves and find that place in their heart that's truly them. Today, I'd love to go a little bit deeper around what we talked about last month. We explored the cost of always being the one holding everything together. And many of the women that were on that call named something pretty profound, that beneath the strength, there was a woman that wasn't quite sure who she was outside of the roles that we play in life, and mother, grandmother. They're all teachers, essentially, teaching our children, and the jobs we do or the businesses we run, the wife, all the things, the girlfriend. And so today I wanted to follow that thread because I think there's a piece around the unraveling of that, that isn't just about being tied to that strength. It's about the deeper question that fatigue eventually surfaces from that. And good morning, Sharon. So who am I when I'm not being everything to everyone is where we're going today. Just to preempt, give you a bit of context about today. But before we go there, welcome to the other ladies that have just walked in, Sharon. So I would love to go around and just briefly, all of you briefly introduce yourself and a little bit about what you do before we dive into that topic. Let's start with Sara. Hey, Sara.
Hello, hi Joanne, hi everyone. Sara ROCCISANO, a motivational speaker, author, founder of Embolden Adventures, which is an encouragement platform that inspires personal, professional, and spiritual development and transformation. Happy to be here.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you for coming. And our beautiful Catherine, who's also a host in Sacred U.
Yeah, thank you. So I'm Catherine Cristani. I'm an inner authority guide and a writer and speaker on conscious leadership and human potential, which allows me to help people find their authentic voice and themselves and step into their highest timeline. So actually doing what you want to do in this world and not what everyone else tells you to do, essentially. And as Joe mentioned, I'm also the host of Empowered Entrepreneurs, where we come together and bring spirit and business together.
Beautiful work you do. Thank you, Catherine. And gorgeous Abby. Hi, Abby.
Hi, everyone. Happy Easter Monday for those of you that observe it. I am Abby Teixeira, and I'm calling in from Treaty 6 territory, which is also known as Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. I'm a speaker, I'm a published writer and author, I'm a trauma recovery guide and a feminine leadership mentor. I also am a survivor of complex PTSD and also a mama of four. And they're all here right now. They're just tucked away in the house somewhere with my husband watching them. I guide cycle breaking women and femmes, especially those of the global majority, so Black, Indigenous women of color who are mothers, healers, coaches, and creatives, really move out of isolation and survival and really into embodied, community rooted leadership. And I do this by holding space for spaces where they can show up with their grief, their rage, their truth, their wisdom to be witnessed, integrated, and transformed into sovereignty. And so I always enjoy these conversations, and I'm really looking forward to connecting and chatting with you all today. Thanks.
Yay, thank you, Abby. Beautiful work you do. We're also aligned. And Sharon, please introduce yourself.
Yes, thank you. My name is Sharon Vadano. I am a retired criminal defense attorney here in the United States in California. I am now a transformational life coach. I help women who are in the dating scene. They're frustrated with the dating, or if they're divorced or widowed, and they are now fearful but wanting to step into the dating scene. So I help them gain confidence and date with ease so that they can no longer do the chasing of the men, and they are the one who are doing the choosing from their own worthiness and from have that confidence to do so.
Wow, love that. Love that. We so need that in our world today. We had a big conversation with the grandchildren about relationships this morning. Incredible. So thank you, Sharon. And Heather, how are you, Heather? Welcome.
Thank you. It took me a few minutes to figure out how to get in, so I apologize.
It's okay.
And
Technology.
I am Heather, and Abby, I'm in Toronto, so another Canadian on the scene. I am a transformation guide. I help women who have forgotten that they are brilliant human beings and they are worthy of being taken care of as much as they care for everyone else. And my program is called the Thriving Life Method, and I actually just wrote a book called Illuminate Your Worth, which is subtitled Stop Pretending You're Okay and Start Living Like You Mean It. And my purpose in life is to help allow people to turn their lights back on and live fully in peace and happiness and joy, whatever that looks like for them, and not feel guilty about it.
I love that. I love that. Not pretend to be okay. How good are we at that? Us women, right? Amazing. Oh, so thank you all for being here. Wise women. I feel we're very aligned, and also around the topics that we're diving into today. I'm not sure if you heard, Heather, but it's all around that unraveling that who we truly are at the core. And it's a bit of a lead on from last month's topic being the strong one syndrome, holding it all together for everyone. So I think before we arrive, I know we've all been doing a lot of things in the background, and also welcome to the future for those of you who are still on Monday. We're on Tuesday morning here in Australia, and we've had a wonderful Easter, so thank you for being here. But before we just dive into this space together, I'd love us just to take a moment to just step out of what we were doing, who we were just before we jumped on the call, and just come as yourself, and let's take a big breath, maybe put our hand on our heart. and actually feel the beating of your heart. Like the heartbeat, it never needs your permission, right? It just beats. It's never asked you to perform or to prove anything. It just keeps going, right? Faithfully and quietly. And this is the part of you that we're bringing here today. So take one big breath and gently exhaling out slowly, just letting yourself arrive. Not as if you know who you were or have been, but as you are here, still becoming. Just let's hold space for that as we go into our conversation today. Beautiful. Because there comes a time, becomes a moment actually. We don't arrive on a schedule. And when the life you've been holding, been building, starts to ask different kinds of questions, it's not, what do I need to do next? But it's more, what is actually mine? What is actually mine? So we're going to begin with that, with also the question in mind, who am I when I'm not being everything to everyone else? Often things happen. It might happen. We might arrive in like the middle of a busy week or in that silence that when everyone's gone to bed, we might feel like that restlessness. Like sometimes it can show up as grief or a quiet ache that you can't actually even name. And most of the time we push through it, right? Because we're so busy. We have to push past because we're in the doing. There's things to do. Even when in the quiet of night, when the kids are in bed, there's still things to do. And we disregard ourselves because people need us. Things have to be done. It doesn't quite feel like the right time to fall apart often, does it? But what if, this is a question to think about, what if the falling apart, that part isn't falling apart at all? What if it's actually falling open? Something to ponder. I'm curious actually, because I went to bed last night thinking about this topic, unraveling, and also my path and my unraveling. And when my first experience of falling apart was at a very young age. I think I was about 20, 21. And then there's a series of falling apart, but I didn't view it as unraveling at that time. I just thought like life was BS. At that age, we're like, things are happening to us, not for us. So with that concept in mind, has anyone ever felt like something like that when things are falling apart, that a sense of something is shifting? And I didn't realize till years later that everything that happened to me happened for me. When the marriage fell apart, when I was homeless, everything was BS. But later I realized, and I wrote a chapter in a book about this, a collaborative and the title was called, oh my goodness, here we go, brain's gone. It was in A Journey to Riches, and mine was all around what happened for me, how my life unfolded, and a blessing in disguise. It was called A Blessing in Disguise. There it goes. And how it was a blessing because I wouldn't be where I am today without all those things happening. So is there a sense that have you ever had that sense that something is shifting even when you can't quite name it or what it is yet?
I found this is the story of my life. Like my marriage was okay until I stepped back and realized how miserable and unhappy I was and how much I'd created my life around making sure he was happy rather than I was happy. And I know happiness is a state of mind, but at the same time, if you're not with someone that supports you and wants you to grow and expand and rather keep you small, this is where you have those moments. And then once that shifted and my personal life balanced out, then I could see the same thing happening in my business partnership. So why am I always the bad guy? Why am I the one framed as this person? Why does this have to happen? All right, this needs to fall apart now because I don't want, this is not who I am. It's who I've been portrayed to be. And even then, when my company fell apart, same thing. Okay, maybe I don't want my company anymore. Maybe this isn't who I want to be. Who am I going to be without all these identities? And I know in the spiritual world, we talk about the dark night of the soul, round 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, etc. But it's really that falling apart or breaking open needs to happen. Otherwise, new energy can't come in. And even though it feels like everything's breaking down, there's that thing, you can't get a breakthrough before you break down. So whenever I'm in that breakdown period, I actually let myself break down or break apart, if you will, because if I don't let that happen, then everything else will just keep bubbling to the surface in unhealthy ways. And then I'm actually denying my part of myself, who I am in that moment. I'm not allowing myself to be sad, to be angry, to be frustrated, to be disappointed with the outcomes. And when I let myself feel that, then normally that's when it can shift the fastest and I can step out of it faster. But that's from years of being through these cycles on so many different levels, that the wisdom comes from that. Until you know better, you can't do better. So if you're listening to this going, just give yourself that compassion too, because often we don't allow ourselves that space to feel all the range of emotions, which is why we're here.
Beautiful. I love that. So true. And that recognizing that, but it took me a long time to even recognize that was happening for me and to break it open and have that compassion as well for self. Gosh, I beat myself up for years. I don't know about anyone else until I woke up. It was like a waking up. Yeah. Does anyone else want to jump in and share their experience? Go, open up. No permission here. Just go for it.
I'll go.
I was waiting for the in order thing.
No,
we freeform.
We're freeform today. Yeah.
So I thought it was actually interesting. At one point, you said, "What is the right time to fall apart?" And if you ask that question, it's going to be never, right? And it does happen for you, but I think that when you're in it, you would never believe it. And you have to get past it. And the more that you resist whatever you're in that you're not enjoying, if you're trying to keep it the same, you're just going to make the pain last longer. So I've had many in my life. One of the ones that happened to me most recently was I actually had a stroke in 2021. I know, I was completely shocked. Because I had moved from the corporate world to the world of wellness. And for 15 years, I had been 100% the healthiest person that I knew. And then I'm in the hospital. And at that time, luckily, as you say, I had been through a bunch of things through my life and had created through various transitions this life where I'm constantly becoming, but I started to become this person. And I say luckily because I spent 3 days alone in the emergency room and I couldn't see, so I couldn't escape into people's social media that people use as their escape mechanism. So I was lying there. No one was allowed to visit. It was COVID. And because I had been through so many things, I'm not going to say I was enjoying myself at all, but because I had been through a whole bunch of little bumps in the road and things falling apart, it gave me that opportunity to say, I'm really not having a good time right now. And why am I here exactly? So I started asking that question of myself or whoever was listening, call it my higher self, the universe. And that's actually where my book came from and a whole bunch of things. And my program was like, pay attention. Yes, we've got you. We're looking after you, but pay attention to what's going on here because we're trying to teach you something. So I continue to learn from all of those things that I bump into and that make various things that I think I've constructed so perfectly fall apart. But I think that, as you said, the falling apart is, it's almost like those dolls that you take apart, and it gets better and better as you get more and more into the center. That's what I feel like. As we peel off the things that are falling apart, we're getting down to the core awesomeness in the center. And I think you have to yell and scream sometimes. But, and forget the but, and find something to enjoy while you're there.
I love that. I love that dismantling, right? I just, when you were talking now, I saw is it Jenga? The towers? You're taking out the pieces. And my grandson and I play this all the time. We love it. And then we video it falling. And it's so true. And sometimes these unraveling moments are triggered by big life events, like a health wake-up call, right? Or a relationship ending, a career change, and you had the career change and the health thing. Children, I remember when my children grew up and left home. Girls, that's a big one. Oh, who am I now? I packed house and went north. Because I was on my own, the big questions come up like, well, who am I now? I was a single mum. So, yeah, or that big birthday that feels so heavy and unexpected being there. Oh, I love that. Thank you, Heather.
I'll jump
Sarah.
in.
Yep.
Yeah, following the career part, I'd like to make a mention about my rug pulling out from under my feet. In New York City, once upon a time ago, 22 years of it, I got laid off 3 times. And one time it was for 2.5 years straight for not finding work while I still lived in Manhattan. And yeah, your identity is New York. Your identity is the hustle, the grind, the intense career on Wall Street or wherever it was. And it's hard because I kept fighting to get back into the system until I finally decided to leave the system once and for all in 2019, or sorry, 2022. And I had this very vivid dream about 2-ish weeks ago or so. It's almost as if I astral traveled. And I could see myself in Manhattan again. I saw myself on 53rd Street in Lexington, where the Citibank building is, that diagonal building that's very famous in the skyline. And I was looking into the lobby, and I knew that there was some sort of business conference going on, like they typically have in Midtown. And I remember saying to myself in this dream very vividly, oh, too bad for them. They have to wear shoes. And I knew I was shoeless in this dream walking around the sidewalks on Lexington. And I realized that being shoeless is freedom. It's a symbol, right? That you're no longer disconnected to the earth. You're no longer in a skyscraper far above the ground. You're no longer under fluorescent lights in a cubicle wearing an Ann Taylor suit and feeling very uncomfortable because you're working super late every single night and not being balanced in terms of a well-balanced meal and all that. And you do hit breaking points. You are dysregulated. And here I am now, almost as if I was peering into that other timeline as we're splitting away, and grateful that I'm here now, despite the setbacks, despite the hardship, despite the reinvention I was forced to go through in a lot of ways. I'm glad I'm not in Wall Street right now, because the private credit markets, we're seeing lots of headlines about Blue Owl Capital and UBS and Blackstone and BlackRock. There's a big problem about to hit the financial markets soon, and thank God I'm not there. I already did my healing, and I think that there's a lot of people that are going to now come to have a come to Jesus moment where they're like, oh God, it's time to transform, and I don't know how. I don't have the tools. So I'm very grateful to be here shoeless, having done the work and being grounded and being spiritually connected and having an ability to reconnect within and be there to hold a hand for those that, are here to wake up and cross over where we are in this timeline.
Wow. What a profound dream for you, Sarah. And I get acknowledgement, clarification. I'm on the right path. I'm living my life, living my purpose. How beautiful. Oh, I hope you danced all day after that dream. But yeah, you're right. It's transformational time. It's now or never, I believe, personally. It's time. Wake up. Let's do it. So anyone else want to jump in there? Or yeah, go Sharon.
Yeah. And I appreciate all the comments here in the stories because it can so relate in all aspects of our life. And I'm going to zoom it into the relationship parts of my life where I was dating. And that is quite a journey. And I did a lot of growing in having to learn about who I was and my worth when I was dating. And talking about falling apart, when I was what they call a serial dater, because I had the ideas that I was only allowed to like one guy at a time because I couldn't like more than one guy at a time because it's cheating or it's not ladylike or it's whatever. And as soon as I let go of that story, so that story had to fall away, it was very liberating. Then I was now able to own, you know what? I am not the bad girl. I am not ladylike. I am not cheating if I'm talking to more than one gentleman. And before that, I was a serial dater and I only focused on one person at a time. And when I did that and it fell apart and it split open, I would be devastated. But as I grew in this journey, I started to realize that was really spirit dismissing this gentleman because he was not my guy. He is not aligned for me. And we are now making room for the gentleman or making room for that person who I have that desire for in my life. So when you start to shift, and when we bring it down to dating, when you start to shift, whether there's rejection or you get ghosted or a relationship falls apart, it is the falling away because it is a falling away of what does not serve you. But in that part that's not serving you, you always know that there is a seed of good. So I would always ask, what can I learn from this interaction, from this experience, from this relationship? And it got to the point where as I grew in my awareness and each serial relationship fell apart, I started to get really excited because this guy was great, but then God pushed him away and I'm like, who is he sending me next? Because this guy is going to be so much better. And I like to say when I talk to my clients, I say, in my quest to find my man, I found myself and then grew closer to God. So that's how the more aligned you are, you appreciate the falling apart because that is about your own growth and your own journey of who you are becoming.
So beautiful. Thank you, Sharon. It's a big piece of the unraveling of the stories, isn't it? And the programming that we've been conditioned to be in the world that's not truly true. It's not true. It's not true. Honestly. So I love that you're doing this work and helping so many women transform their old patterns of programming. Thank you, Abby.
Yeah, I'm loving this conversation. And what's really standing out for me is that question that you asked, who am I when I'm not being everything to everyone? And I think that's really been my journey for the past 11 plus years of really coming home to myself. And it's not even like I could have thought of it when I started to strip away all the layers, losing myself in a sense. But really what I've discovered is that I've actually learned to meet my true self when I'm not all the titles, the fixer, the strong one, the caretaker, the one that holds it all together, all of those kind of things that at one point in time, I very much held on to those kind of identities. And as a trauma survivor and a cycle breaker, I think for many of us, it's a survival mechanism, right? Where we take on these roles in order to be loved and accepted and to avoid conflict and abandonment and harm and all of those kind of things. To what extent? And I know for me, it was to a very significant, drastic extent that was required me to abandon myself in order to fit into these kind of scenarios and situations. And so that has been like the whole journey of rediscovering, like when I do strip away all those titles, when I do strip away those roles, what am I left with, right? And what I've discovered is that I'm somebody that's learning to be in right relationship with my voice, my energy, my truth, which has come with a lot of backlash. It's a heavy price to pay to be the one who breaks the silence in a family system where we've survived by silence. And I'm somebody as a mom of 4 and an entrepreneur and still work part-time as a nurse and on my healing journey and all the things, married and all of the things. I'm somebody that I'm allowed to have rest in order to receive, and I'm allowed to take up space without having to earn it. And those are things that I've had to really step into as I've stripped away these different layers of myself and really discover that I don't have to earn these things. These are my birthright. That hasn't been easy for sure, because for a long time, it was something that I felt I needed to earn. Right. And I, like many of us, and even with my work with clients, one of the big things that I help navigate through is that burnout, the fact that we burn ourselves out, to hold on to these different roles and identities, and for what? Right. And so, yeah, so it's just been one of those kind of profound journeys of really discovering that, yeah, like what are my core essences? What are my values? Who really am I if I took away all those things? And the things that actually are left with are the things that actually matter to me the most. And those are the things that I have to align myself with and really step into as, like I mentioned, as my birthright, not something that I'm earning a seat at the table kind of thing. So, yeah, really enjoying this conversation.
So beautiful, Abby, so beautiful. And I think a lot of women would relate to that part of us that breaks the cycle and has been almost ostracized. I know I relate to that. Being different, what's wrong with her, right? For being something else, for choosing a different identity. It's very brave work, and I know a lot of us are doing brave work. Also, that piece around, I think it was Heather that mentioned, just came through to me, around allowing yourself to scream, allowing yourself to rage. I spent a lot of my 30s in a spiritual school, which was encouraging us to do that. In fact, we even had a room that we could use that was padded to unravel that old part of us that was traumatized. Nothing's off the table, right, when you're healing. And that's, yes, such profound work. Thank you, Abby. I just admire all of you and your courage to step out of the norm. Yeah. Because what version of, and if anyone's watching this, the replay, or watching us live, what version, maybe ask yourself, what version of yourself are you most afraid of letting go? That's a question, because it changes throughout our stages of life too, our 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s. I'm in my 60s now, so it's different, and I'm still unraveling a different part of me. And who am I now as a grandma? So does anyone relate to that? What are you most afraid to let go of? Or what have you been?
I think that when I talk to people about, they know they want something different. They know they want to be happier. They feel it. They know that they're unhappy. But I think that the problem that comes in is it feels safer to stay where you are than to make that change, right? And I mean, we were talking about how it's brave to be the break the chain, break the cycle, be the different person, because we have this instinct built into us that it's dangerous to be an individual because you'll get kicked out. And at some point in our evolution, that meant you might die. It doesn't mean that anymore, but we're still wired for that. So I just feel like this feeling that somehow this person or this act that you're putting on feels safer than taking that step towards potential happiness, because it's not guaranteed. But I think that if you can project yourself to the end of this life cycle, are you going to be happy that you stayed safe? I feel like you will be regretful, and that's almost a worse feeling than like that. Just makes me shrink down. That regret feeling is worse than feeling like you're doing something scary. Because no matter what happens, I've reinvented myself a couple of times with a major shift where everyone who was in that part of my life is now no longer that part of my life. So I've recreated myself. I'm on my third or fourth version now. But each time it was painful, but I just had this trust that I knew that there was going to be something better. Like Sharon's, the next guy's going to be even better. The next step forward, go through the messy parts, it's going to be better.
Yeah.
It's just going to keep getting better. You just have to let it and
Yeah.
trust. Trust, I think, is big.
Trust is a big one, isn't it? Love that. What role or belief has been holding you all together, keeping you together, keeping you the same, but it's also been keeping you so small. So stepping out, trusting and stepping out, just trusting. I love that. Yeah, so go, Sharon.
I just want to add to what Heather said. And I like that when you're feeling so comfortable in what you know, even though that you may not be happy. And I like to say that I know that Gay Hendricks said he strived to be moved by the touch of a feather. And I would always ignore the feather, and I would ignore the nudge, and I would ignore the shove, and I had to get hit by a ton of bricks before I finally listened. And what's crazy is that when you don't listen, your circumstances seem to get more amplified until you do listen. And I just want to give one example. I had stayed in my former marriage for many years. It was on and off and it was rocky. And I noticed one time a voice in my head saying, I think I'm okay staying in a marriage where we're just friends. And I noticed myself thinking that. And I noticed the other voice saying, oh, hell no, that's not what you truly want. And when I finally listened to that voice, and then of course there was a ton of bricks that I got hit by, that I finally made that decision. It's like we find comfort in the hell that we know, because the unknown is so much more scary. But when you align yourself with what you have, that desire that is in your heart, and I truly believe this 1000%, that spirit has put a desire in your heart. It is divine. It is a desire that is divine, and it is done. It is yours for the taking. You just have to take those steps to put yourself in alignment with it, and then take those steps so you can receive it. So listen to those parts of you. So go for the feather. Don't get hit by the ton of bricks. Go for the feather. Listen and start to make that move, so you don't have to have all that suffering in the meanwhile.
Oh, it's so deeply profound and wise, because what came through for me then was about not wanting to hurt the other person, afraid to hurt them, being the nice person, and I'll just
That
stay
was mostly
because
my children. I didn't want to hurt my children.
Yeah.
And I felt I did not want to hurt them. And I had a lot of guilt on my own part. I'm going to mess them up because they're so happy. But the reality is, now they're older. They're like, Mom, we're so much happier that you didn't stay.
Yeah, I experienced that bit too. What have I done? But yeah, thank you, Sharon. That's beautiful. Catherine.
I think it comes down to what both ladies touched upon, is that if you don't do it, the universe will force your hand to do it. So why not choose your suffering rather than be thrown into it? Because when you're backed into a corner, you still have to be courageous and fight your way out. But if you choose to be courageous before then, it allows you to take the steps you need to be on the path that you choose at that moment, rather than having the universe throw all the bricks at you in this massive entourage. And even what Sara was touching upon earlier when she said she couldn't get a job. Like, it was, the universe was like, no, you're done here. Stop trying to push down this door. It's sealed shut. There's another one open there. You just have to turn around and have a look. And even, it's interesting because it's always divine timing, but the past week I've had all these clients who have know that they shouldn't be in the relationship anymore. They know that they need to step out of the relationship or out of the job that they're in or whatever it might be. And it's only through giving that validation and reflecting back to them what they already know and see that they can have the courage to do that. Especially when we're surrounded by family who keep telling us, oh, that's just normal. It's normal to fight all the time. It's normal to be sad. It's normal not to have sex in a relationship. It's normal. No, it's not. And I choose not to have this normal. I choose to choose in my own. And it's through that power that we can have in ourselves. But it's not easy. It is. We're all here. We're all cycle breakers. We've all taken the tenacity to step into that higher path. And if you can't find the courage to do that, go find a tribe who will support you. Because when you keep surrounding yourself, and honestly, half the time my partner will tell me things and I just look at him and I'm like, I'm going to go talk to people who get me. And I love him and he's an activator and he challenges me and expands me, but sometimes he just doesn't, and that's okay too. And this is where you have to know these are my tribes. Here's who understands me. Here's where I can go to allow myself to expand in those different areas. Because if you keep yourself small and hidden and think that, oh, but this is what my husband said, or my partner said, or this is what my boss said. No, you have a feeling, you have an intuition, have that courage to act on it. You're going to get the bricks thrown on you and have to do it anyway. Choose the path of suffering that you want, and why not suffer to get to your actual desire and to get to where you want to go. And there's that whole saying that if you don't have a dream, you're living somebody else's. So trust in that and trust in yourself as well.
Oh my goodness. I'm getting quite emotional here listening to you ladies. Such a beautiful, I guess, recognition of how far you've come and where you are in your journey. And there's no destination really. This sort of leads me into this next part I wanted to touch on, because we could probably go for another hour and a half. But there's a difference between falling apart, right, and falling into alignment. And you've just stepped into that piece now, Catherine, as that the cracks that are, they're not a sign that something has gone wrong, right? They're often where the light is of who you actually are beginning to become, that you can then follow that light to becoming, to go through. So what if the discomfort that we've all felt over the years in the past through these unraveling times isn't a problem to solve, but an invitation to meet the true version of yourself? And I think that's where you alluded to right there. And let's go deeper with that, huh? What if there was something, actually, I'll ask you this question. What if there was something deep down that you've been avoiding or pretending not to know? What if there was something deep down that and I know we've all experienced that, because you also touched on that part of you, that the fear of the women that have come into you and saying, oh, but I can't, oh, I know I need to leave, but it's fearful. So that's a part, the fearful part.
I can jump in and
Please
share a little bit, because loving a lot of the things that all of you have shared on. And I just think about, as somebody, we've all claimed that we're cycle breakers and we are self-actualizing women here and wanting to evolve and grow and all of that kind of stuff. And that all requires change. And change is painful, as we know, right? Like many of us, we're averse to change. And so we will stay in situations that we know a long time ago that they're not for us. But I really love somebody had mentioned about the bricks, learning lessons through bricks. And this is something that I can't remember who I heard it from, but as it pertains to learning lessons. And I know for myself, I'm the type of person that I will get nudges from the universe. I will get whispers and I will ignore them. And there's this saying that is you'll either learn your lesson through metaphors or 2x4s. And unfortunately, I have learned many of my lessons by 2x4s. They have been extremely painful. And it's because I know that it's going to require change. And oftentimes for me, it's been significant changes, meaning shedding old identities and personalities and things like that feel like I'm falling apart. And what it has been for me has been dismantling those identities so that I can deeper align with who I really am and my truth. And so it's not comfortable, because we just finished 2025, which was in Chinese astrology, it was the year of the snake. And so there was a lot of this energy of shedding. And I got so curious about this. Like, how do snakes shed and what does this look like? And so I went on a little rabbit hole and started doing some research on that. And it was incredible to like really learn about the shedding process and how painful it is. Like, it's not an easy process. Actually, for the snakes, the first place that they start to shed is in their eyes. And so like for a while, there's darkness, there's blurriness. It's like it's painful. And then when that gets lifted, it goes to their lips, like their mouth and stuff. And it's crazy to think like they do this a lot. It's not a one and done type of thing. And so this process of shedding is not easy in nature. But when we think about tying it to nature, in nature, nothing blooms unless it first breaks open. Like we're in spring, right? And so we're seeing the snow melting, and underneath there's little sprouts coming through, all of that kind of stuff. And the earth literally cracks open to make space for this new life. And that's a painful process in itself. Right, there has to be a lot of moving parts, a lot of different details that go into this process. But really, there is no becoming without this unraveling happening, right? And for me, oftentimes it has really felt like chaos, but it's really just reorganization. And then the end result is always just so much more deeper aligned. And it's, whew, okay, I went through that, I got through that, and I'm feeling so much more rooted and grounded in myself. And that was necessary. And then there's other times when I've been avoiding something, and it's not even that I've made it into this big giant thing. And when I actually walk through it, it's like, okay, that actually wasn't that bad. I was avoiding that for way too long. And then on the other side, there's always something better, more aligned, more freeing, all of that kind of stuff, right? And then I kick myself, like, why did it take me so long to like really make this step forward? And it's because we crave comfort as human beings. We want comfort and security. We love predictability. I'm learning that a lot as a mom with my kids. They love routine. They love predictability. They love systems. And it's difficult. It's difficult to implement those things on a day-to-day basis, but it's for the overall well-being and cohesiveness of our family unit to implement these things, right? And if I didn't do that, then it would be truly chaotic for all of us, and it would be so much more difficult. And so if I have to make some shifts in order to align that, I'm gonna do it, right? Because I know that the end result is gonna be just much more beautiful and more freeing. So yeah.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you, Abby. How often do we ignore the signals, the signs, the nudges, the spirits telling, the 4B2s? Love it. Thank you so much. Strategies and all of it. Sara, please. I know you want to jump in.
I'd love to address what Sharon, Catherine, and your question, your most recent question, all in one answer. Surrender is control, is what someone told me one time. He was having a conversation with me and he brought up his favorite Bruce Lee. And he told me surrender is control. And that's what Sharon was saying about trusting the unfolding and having a trust in something that you don't know what ultimately is going to happen, but you want to believe that this calling is leading you in the right direction. And what Catherine is saying about how you want that alignment around you for support and not the naysayer that doesn't understand. And so that's all fear. Fear is the opposite of love. Love is the opposite of fear. And if you can trust that this calling is bigger than your fear, the sky's the limit. Surrender is control at that point. You're no longer gripping because you think you have a false sense of control, which ultimately doesn't benefit you. And I think personally, I just had I guess from the old timeline, let's put it that way, someone in the finance world who doesn't understand what I'm going through and doesn't get it and was mean about it, to be quite frank. And because I'm so grounded and it's taken this long to get to this place of trusting in myself and knowing the calling is real, even though I don't have certainty that it's going to work out in this exact way, the way the old world taught me how to be. Plan, organize, execute. And this is how it's going to be because it's guaranteed, right? Nope. You surrender that control. And so he doesn't understand that, and he was quite mean about it. But because I'm so now at this point of healing and confidence and courage, it didn't bother me. I'm still very calm, cool, collected, grounded. I know what I'm doing is the right path for me. It's the calling. Surrender is control, and find your tribe and be aligned. So that's how we navigate, and that's how we conquer the fear through love. The love of self, the love of the mission, the love of what's next, what's coming for me next.
Wow. Surrendering control. So true, right? Beautiful. You've all come out with some beautiful, profound statements today. I love it. So I'm just checking we've got about 8 minutes, but thank you all. And I love the stories. I think we learn more through our own personal experience and sharing those stories with the world and what we've been through. So through that gives them hope, gives them some sense of maybe I can too. Right? Maybe I can too. So if the woman that you are becoming, not the role, not the story that we've talked about, the stories that we used to tell ourselves, not the version that's shaped, it's shaped by everybody else's expectations, which is huge, isn't out there. It's like how we have to be in the world, shaped from a very young age. And I love that Abby's bringing in all that upside down way of working with your family. It's just gorgeous. And if she could leave a message, if this woman that she is today, where you are today, if you could leave a message right now, what do you think she would say to everyone? Or maybe what's one thing she would give permission to release? Getting into that.
I think for me, what's dropping down is, and funny you just said release, you just added that. It was trust and release. Trust and release. As much as I have an idea of how I would love things to be, so I listen to my nudge. Great, I listen to my nudge and I'm taking my next step, but I'm expecting it to show up in a certain way. And what I'm starting to realize is the more I hold on to that, there's a lot of constriction there. One of my most recent mantras is trust and release, trust and release. You have this vision that you're building this life that you would love, but be open to how it may show up in your life. There may be an odd opportunity for you to go meet this person and you're like, what does that have to do with anything? And I'm trying to build this business over here, but you never know where that's going to lead you. So just trust and release how this life that you are building and you are wanting in your heart to build, how it's going to show up. And then when I do that, when I remember to do that, I feel more flow. There's a lot more flow. Yeah.
Beautiful, beautiful. And I don't think we can receive until we release, right?
That's awesome, Sharon. And you reminded me that a couple of years ago, I went to Denver and I saw Abraham Hicks. And I'm sitting in the audience and my Akashic Records reader had said to me, Heather, your record readers came in and told me you should write all your questions down. I said, okay. So apparently they just went to her and said, tell her to write down her questions. So I wrote down a few pages of questions and I'm sitting in the audience going, they're not asking me. They're not asking me. And at one point, Abraham stopped and looked at the audience, but I felt like they were talking to me and said, look, I'm answering all of your questions using the people in the audience who can answer them in the best way. And I went, but what I realized was that, and Abraham says this a lot, is it's not, we get this in this 3D, you need this goal, you need to follow these steps to get to this goal, and this is how you need to be. But what I've been working continually to step into and become is I have a feeling of how I want my life to feel. And that vibration of that feeling, I follow that vibration without caring really what's going to happen. Not to say that I don't care, but I don't have to have it in a specific way that I can write down on a vision board. I want to have that feeling of that life. And if it shows up as a house and cottage next to a lake, or if it shows up as on top of a mountain, it's all good. I'll feel good either way. Just follow the vibration.
I love that. I love that. What a great story with Esther and Abraham. Beautiful work. So what would it feel like to trust that unraveling and that it's actually taking you somewhere? It's not taking it away from yourself, but it's actually coming home to yourself. True? Yeah. Love that. Okay. Anyone else want to jump in before we close, or maybe just offer, I know we've got a few minutes, but offer a word for people to, not a word that you should offer, but a word that feels true to you right now.
For me, it'd be trust yourself.
Trust yourself. Beautiful. Abby?
Yeah, I'm just going to tie in with the topic that we've been discussing, and really just my word of advice would be really stop being everything to everyone and finally start being somebody to yourself. I think that was one of the deepest lessons for myself, right? Okay, so I'm being everything to everyone, but who am I being to me? And that was really profound in itself, right? And then there's nothing in the world that is worth abandoning yourself for. No one, not a relationship, not a community, not anyone. that you need to abandon yourself in order to belong, because then truly, what belonging is that? What kind of belonging is that, right? And so I
Exactly.
belong to myself, and if that aligns with you, amazing, then I do. But I'm not going to leave parts of myself in order to be fit in and all of that kind of stuff. And so I think that would be the biggest, I guess, takeaway that I would tell my younger self.
Beautiful. Thank you.
I
So,
think the word is, for me, pronoia. Pronoia means the universe is working in my favor. So the undertone to that word is belief. Believe that things are going to work out for you in your best interest.
oh, I love that. Perfect. Where are we? Have we covered everyone? Am I lost someone? No, we were.
Your
Beautiful.
word,
Thank you.
your word, Joe.
My word, my word. Oh, okay. Let me just feel that for a second. Is how about emerging? It's like we're emerging. I love that. Like a lotus, we're emerging. We're becoming, right? We're alive. We've been there. And I just want to say all of what these beautiful, wise women have shared today is it doesn't happen overnight. It's been a journey. It's been stages of unraveling, right? And we're still unraveling as we become a different version and different life stage. Thank you, Sophia. What's your word, darling?
Ditto, but that's it's really connection.
Yeah. And that's why we're here.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I love it. Thank you for bringing everyone together, Sophia. It's just been amazing. I love these conversations. I do. And I love all the women that connect with us. So
Thank you for facilitating another wonderful conversation. And for Sarah and Catherine and Abby and Sharon and Heather, who's joining us for the first time, I want to honor you, honor Joe. For anyone who is watching the live or the replay, click on the links, reach out to these amazing women. Come and join us at SacredU.Love. You know the whole thing. And Joe will be back same time next month for another wonderful conversation about returning and reclaiming yourself. It is so important in this world. So just thank you, everyone. We are honored to be able to present these in circles.
yeah. Thank you, everyone. Much love. Deeply grateful. See you soon.